Entrepreneur MBA podcast purpose is to help existing business owners grow their companies past the 10 million in revenue per year benchmark. Here is your host, Stephen Halasnik.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Halasnik, and I am co-founder of Financing Solutions. Over the last 25 years, I've built 6 companies in the $5 million to $25 million range. And I can't tell you how important it is for businesses to have a line of credit so they can make an investment in their business or even for unexpected emergencies. I can't tell you how many times throughout my history I've had to have a line of credit that, it wasn't that many times, but I always had a line of credit there just in case. And it was that experience that my business partner and I had about how difficult it was getting a line of credit set up with a bank that led us to create Financing Solutions 12 years ago. We just really believe that everyone should have a line of credit just in case. And our line of credit program is easy to get in place, inexpensive when used, and costs nothing to set up, making it a great cash backup plan. If you'd like to learn more about our line of credit program, please visit us at fscreditline.com. That's FS as in Financing Solutions, creditline.com. Or give us a call at 862-207-4118. If you apply today, we will even give you a $250 credit on file. And just remember, the time to set up a line of credit is when you don't need it, so that when you do need it, it's ready to go, it is proved, and it stays in place for a year. It's renewed yearly. It's a good deal. Today, I am very excited to be speaking with Kurt Uhlir. Kurt is a globally recognized marketer, operator, and speaker. He's built and run businesses from startups to over 500 million in annual revenue. He's assembled teams across 6 continents, been part of a small team leading an IPO that was $880 million, and participated in dozens of acquisitions. He was at the front lines creating several of the marketing channels we all use today, including social media management, influence marketing, and location-based marketing. In recent years, he has focused on helping individual business owners and marketing agencies with a heavy focus on real estate. Kurt and his team have analyzed more than 150,000 real estate websites over each of the past 3 years and the agent businesses behind them to identify what works in modern marketing and guides businesses in 10x success. Kurt, welcome to today's Entrepreneur MBA podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Stephen.
So, this is not, I don't mean not an ego thing on my part. I rarely get a guest who has done exceptionally more than I have. They've done similar, but never, still have not brought a company public. I haven't brought a company public. It's not going to happen. And, I haven't, I actually haven't, this isn't a positive. This isn't a negative. This is a positive. I haven't ever had to have any angel funding or venture capital money. It's always been self-funded in my business.
That's a big success right there.
Yeah. Well, I wanted it that way. I always believe that the business itself will lead its way toward what type of financing you need. Right. And I liked just having these nice businesses that throw up cash where I didn't have to answer to a board, and venture capital too,
Yep.
So your background is super interesting to me. Out of all of this that you've done, before we get to today's topic, out of all of this of what you've done, what has been the funnest?
Oh, the funnest. The funnest was actually not necessarily not a business that I'd started, but I had helped with a group called the Made in America movement. It's kind of a chamber of commerce for 30,000 American-based businesses. And that was probably the most fun. Companies that had made that decision to do everything really here domestically, as there's other country of origin programs in other countries, but everyone that had done things here, because I was just able to talk to so many different family-owned businesses, solo entrepreneurs, big companies across the U.S. And that actually even led to me being invited to by a past president of ours to actually host an event at the White House and pull together
Wow.
a roundtable forum. And so that was probably the most fun. A lot of hiccups along the way, but being able to do something that didn't line my own pockets, but it just helped so many people.
Yeah, it's funny. The company that I think I was most proud of was it made the least amount of money because I actually it was the first company. It was the only company I ever started, which really solved a problem that no one else was solving.
Okay.
And to me, that was always the holy grail of business. Coming up with something that someone hadn't thought of, because the fact of the matter is, most businesses there's competition in the space, and that's not a bad thing. Cool. I'm glad you told us about that. So today's topic: how small businesses can thrive in the new influence economy. And let's start off by saying, I think we all understand small businesses. And by the way, small businesses is like less than my definition would be less than $25 million in revenue, right? Which is what my businesses have been around. Some people think small businesses are like, $500,000 businesses. That's not the case, is it?
Oh, no. I mean, they can be quite large. I mean, it also very much depends on whether or not you're a retail company with
Yes.
stores or e-commerce versus are you a service-based company, or offering a, technology product on a monthly basis. I mean, from a size-wise and difficulty, I mean, having a $500,000, technology company or service-based business, lawn care business, may be harder to do than having a $25 million, e-commerce shop.
Yeah, and margins mean a lot. I mean, your gross margins mean a lot too. You
Absolutely.
could have a broker who says, "Well, an insurance broker who says, oh, well, I have $100 million company." It's like, no, you don't. You have
And margins are so critical. I mean, I so much coach people just on the concept of like, no matter what business you're getting into, profit first. I mean, whether or not
Yes.
somebody raises funds, don't raise funds, they use a line of credit. I see way too many businesses that end up failing because when I look back over time, when they could have been banking money for the owner or putting it aside in a bank account. Instead, they were just following what they thought they should do is, hey, I earned an extra $100,000 this quarter. I should find a way to use that and just invest it back in the business, as opposed to some of that needs to go to the side for you as the owner or for the business for a rainy day fund, as opposed to just increase $100,000 in marketing.
Yeah, and I also one of the things I learned along the way was this idea that one of the leading indicators of a gross profit margin can be if you're really on to something that is really needed in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you could have very, very high gross profit margins in like for example, like the consulting business, right?
Right.
There would be very high gross profit margins, but that's not really a scalable business, not so to speak. It's hard, it's hard to build a business with people.
Yeah.
Right. But if you find a product business where there is very high margins and you can really sell a lot of it, well, you've just created something that no one else is doing very well at, and that's probably when the VCs want, the VCs would love to see a high gross profit margin and a large top line too, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it depends on whether or not it is a product company versus technology or
Right.
service-based company. They're looking for so many different things. But in the end, anybody that might invest is looking for, how are they going to get their money back at a multiple in the future? But that's what an individual investor should be looking at as well. Individual owner. I mean, you're starting a business today and say, hey, we're going to talk about influencer marketing. Like, is that the best way, or is it, knocking on doors, which is still kind of influence marketing, depending on how you look at it. You should, like, whoever put in the money, whether it's the owner or an outside investor, should always be looking at, how am I going to get my money out in the future? I mean, I gave counsel to a business owner earlier today who is big enough. It's family business. He's looking at how does he hand it off to his daughter in the future. And his daughter currently runs a 7-figure line of their business. So it's big enough that that's only part of their business. And so he was kind of questioning, almost like, well, what do I do in this family dynamic with some other, people who are in the relationship? And I'm like, how you address anything toxic that wasn't with the daughter is you need to have your business prepared to sell. And that may mean you hand the keys to your daughter at some point. It may mean you sell to somebody else, or it at least changes the conversation then with other people in the mix about, hey, this has to be something that stands on its own outside of me or my daughter. And I'm like, it'll change how you run even meetings with people. And it took him a few minutes to ingest. And he was like, yeah, I've just been building this, assuming I'm just going to hand it off. And because of that, I'm kind of lax in how I look at things.
Oh, I hate transfer of businesses to the second generation. I just think that's a different topic.
Yeah.
We picked apart on our topic lines what small businesses are. We think we know what thrive means, but so what I was trying to get to where we have the new influence economy. So tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah, I mean, marketing really today. I mean, there's always advertising, and there's some amount of money you can put towards any sort of business growth. Where if you just put the message out there enough, I mean, I don't care whether it's a jingle or 8 seconds that just says, "Hey, here's what my jewelry business does," that you can grow a business. But what drives consumers, whether they're true consumers or there are other businesses you sell to make decisions, is influence. It's trust in you. We psychologically, all of the testing shows people, no matter whether it's $100 item or it's $100,000 service, people tend to make emotional choices, and then they look for the logical things to back that up. Hey, I want to buy a tent for $500, and that's the one that I want from REI. All right, does it meet all the things that I'm actually looking for? Very seldom does it go the other way. And so because of that, well, it's not as much about telling somebody, here's what my product does, but it's about influencing them, knowing that they're looking at other sources than just your ad about, for their decision.
Yeah, I get it. Do you think I don't. I feel like I've heard the term "new influence economy," or is that something that you kind of came up with?
I've heard it before from a few different places. I mean, I'm not sure anyone necessarily. I couldn't say this is the woman or man that came up with it. I mean, to some degree, I mean, businesses have done influencer marketing for thousands of years. But I mean, say even just since we've had modern marketing, we had ambassador programs back in the day. Well, that was influencers. You work with a celebrity. Well, that's an influencer program as a way. But when you're telling consumer stories, or somebody's saying, "Hey, I bought this pair of sunglasses, and Stephen, I love these. You should think about getting them." That's influencer marketing. That's always happened. That term influencer marketing kind of got pulled out maybe 15 to 18 years ago. And then really, I think maybe 7 years ago, some of us started saying it's enough in the buying decision. Like, it's the dominant piece that buyers are making their decisions on. We're not trading, the primary thing you're trading as a business owner is influence. Why should you use my service company versus somebody else, buy my product versus somebody else? Because it is very rare to have something that does not have competition.
So follow me along with me on this. So when I started my first company, I was 30 years old. All right. And I'm 57 now. And I started my first company, and it was actually the second company that I had where I was really spending a lot of money to get a really gorgeous printed brochure.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then about halfway through that company, about 7 years into that company's lifespan, brochures became irrelevant because then we were using PDFs.
Right.
Right. Then we go to website, right? And so I missed the point. And the point is, when I was doing printed brochures, we were the main marketing method back then was sending out mailers, right? And it was also trade magazines,
Okay.
right? So then after that, then came kind of like the email explosion, right? Where you were doing email marketing, your website, was a big deal. And then came Google AdWords, right? And Google SEO, right? And then came affiliated marketing, which is, more current now.
Right.
And also came influence marketing, which is, people recommending you to other people and doing that through also reviews, right? So this is my lead in. I don't know if you know where I'm going with this. That is, I feel like the influence economy, we're in the current, that's like current right now. And it's not a bleeding edge anymore.
It's not a bleeding edge anymore. And I would draw a distinction for your listeners from influencer marketing versus influence economy. Influencer marketing is one of the ways that you build influence, but even brochures, reviews, all of those other things, Google ads, that all ties into the influence that you're peddling, that you're marketing, that's impacting the business decision. Truly, influencer marketing is, hey, I'm working with somebody else that doesn't work for my company usually, to get them to share their stories, their thoughts, their feelings about my company, and that sometimes just happens naturally, anyways. Whereas you mentioned, like, hey, if you're a local painter, whether or not you want Google reviews or House reviews, those are happening. Whether you're a good or bad painter. Sometimes if you're just an average, maybe not. Well, you might encourage those, and that's influencer marketing. But from an influence economy perspective, to me, that's everything that comes into the perception of your potential buyer. So that Google ad that you put out, if you promise 700% increase in lead generation from your marketing tool, well, if that's not what they experience, well, you have sold them something that as they start to learn more, that you read a review that says, yeah, that's not what's happening. It's not 700%, it's 7%. Well, you could have otherwise had maybe a decent sale, but instead you just sold a story that isn't actually backed up. That's all lies into the influence economy for me, and it changes how marketers think. Like, I take the approach that says, if you have a company and you actually have a marketing team, they should be tasked with having some sort of say in anything, any interaction with the customer success, even product. I don't care if it's a technology product. Steve Jobs did this at Apple. There was two people that could shut down an Apple product when Steve Jobs was at Apple from being launched: Steve Jobs himself and anybody on the marketing team. Because if something didn't feel right wasn't a good experience to the marketing team, they went, consumers won't like it, we need to pull it back till we talk about it. And it changed then the interactions with engineers and people that were programming, which is why Apple is completely different than, let's go back to the old, for those of us that are a little bit older, Nokia's or BlackBerry.
Yeah, I get it. I think, don't you think the new influence economy has a lot about this, the new generation of buyers that are coming in? They want to know what they're buying. They want to know that if you're truthful, they want to know if you're socially conscious. Do you think that is having this huge influence on what you're talking about?
I think it's a big impact. I think it's both that they're wanting to know what kind of the companies behind it, but also the younger generation, they've grown up with modern marketing. And so, marketing is a wonderful thing. It tells stories for good brands. It also tells stories for bad brands. I've done training with, some of the best negotiators in the world. And one of the things when you talk to some of these, like a Chris Voss, is he'll tell you the same things I'm teaching you can be used for good, or they can be used for bad. They can be used to convince people of things that they shouldn't be convinced of, that they wouldn't want to make that decision otherwise of. And when Google Ads kind of started, because it was so prolific, you could get out there with a message, just put money behind it, and kind of, force sell your way into a bunch of people. And the younger generation's grown up with that. We're hit with so many different messages now. One, they may be looking for social or community kind of aspect, but they're also being like, I need to know what's real, because they're unique skeptics. And that kind of, in 1995 to 2005, most of the people that are your age, my age, we kind of just believed ads a lot more in some of the marketing. And now people are going, they almost take it from an approach that says, I don't believe you. I need to be convinced. And I love it because there's a lot easier way to show authenticity from a solo entrepreneur, from a SMB perspective in that market. Like, hey, I can't compete if I'm a local painter, I can't compete with a giant franchise across the country that has 3,000 franchises, but on an ad budget or a pure marketing budget. But with an influencer perspective, I absolutely can.
Do you think that, and this is a crazy question, but do you think that people shop less? Are they more impulsive, where they see something they want and they just kind of get it?
Yes and no. It depends on it. I think it depends on the personality. I mean, yes, because to some degree, there's a reason Dave Ramsey exists. Does he give for those of us like me that don't have to worry about debt, pays off things when they come through, have had lines of credit and use them responsibly? You're not going to be able to convince me to make an impulse buy too much because I know what's kind of going on. But the reason, and I can make more by leveraging debt and lines of credit. But there are also other people, like I have good friends, like no matter how much their income was, I think that they would always be in debt because it's a psychological issue. They make
Yeah.
impulsive decisions. And so there's a reason he has an audience. And I think that applies for if you're selling to businesses or consumers. And to some degree, it's also really good for, brands and how you get more influence when you kind of take the approach that acknowledges that to people and go, hey, like I'm selling a $500 camping tent. It's awesome. Maybe you don't need to buy it right now, or you need to plan it in your budget. Like I would love to, be in a market like that because it allows me to impact people in different ways. And the people that do buy will tell everybody.
Yeah, so when I was going through those examples, and you're right, it was marketing oriented. When I was talking about the printed brochure, so on
Yeah.
and so forth, right? My question was leading up to you is where do you think this is all going? What's the next marketing horizon?
I think that, we're seeing it right. I mean, I think we're seeing it right now is we're seeing lower quality videos. That tends to be one of the best places for things.
Yep.
They could be from customers. If you're a solo entrepreneur, they could be from you, or they could be from people on your teams. The one of the best examples, that I see is, actually with a home inspector out of Texas named Matt Dallas Brading. And he literally, like how I found him, like he only has like 40,000 followers on Instagram. Based in Atlanta. Have referred him at least 10 clients in his local market in the last
Hmm.
month because I've seen his reels on Instagram and Facebook. And he literally, all he does is he's a home inspector. So he's inspecting homes all day. He just takes out his camera. You can tell when he's tried some other polished videos. But why I found him and a lot of others have is he takes out his phone and he does just a little video that says, here's what I found. And like, he'll show you part of a breaker box or a toilet that's shaking or leaking. And he'll be like, it's not supposed to do that. I feel like I have become a better homeowner and am more likely to actually buy investment properties now because I've watched his reels about just his journey, literally what he does every day. And he's made it a little fun. And would everybody like that? No, but he's connected with people in a way that like any business could do that. And I don't know if he's an individual business or if he has 20 inspectors on his team, but like you could do that and still just filter it back through, the boss to make sure that, they like the messages being out there. And like that would allow him and any company to be able to compete because it's simple videos that's in the day to day. They could compete with any size brand. And I think so. We're already seeing it. We're just not seeing, it's a little bit harder to track because, all of the Matt Dallas Bradings out there that are doing that, they only have 40,000 viewers and they get, 20 to 50,000, sometimes 200,000 views on a video. Put that up against Kobe Bryant. The numbers don't match up until you add them together or you look at how it's impacting the business.
Yeah, so I was listening. My favorite, I've always been a business geek. I just always have been. I mean, when I was in college, I used to love reading the Wall Street Journal, right? And so, like, my favorite show and podcast, it's a show, but they, of course, put it on podcast and you can listen to it anywhere. Is Marketplace. For those of you who don't know it, it's like kind of like an NPR product, National Public Radio, but it's out of California, and it's so current and great. And the guy who runs it, his name's Kai Risdorf. But anyway, I heard this the other day, and I was really surprised because I had always given this off. So, Kurt, I'm going to give you a test.
Okay.
Okay, name for me the three top most used search engines in the world.
Google, YouTube, and what's the Yandex? I forget the Chinese one.
Okay, and that right on. That's what I was thinking. That's what I thought too,
Yeah.
and I had heard it before. right? On Marketplace, they said TikTok is number one right now,
That makes sense.
and then Google, and then YouTube.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't think of YouTube as a search engine. And so, of course, they would not have thought of TikTok as a search engine either, right? My answer was the same as yours. I said the exact same thing. I had said Google, YouTube, and then probably some Chinese company, right? Because there's a lot of people over there,
Yep.
right? But the fact that TikTok is now number one just blew me away. I barely use TikTok. I mean, I think I've been on there once or twice when a friend sending me something or something like that. I really don't go on it that often. But I think it validates what you're saying about short videos being such a big trend right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at my own family. It's like, we don't have a Netflix subscription. We had Disney Plus for a little while because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. But other than that, it's like we don't watch much normal streaming. And so when we're not doing family things, yeah, my wife or I were watching Reels on something, or she's on TikTok.
Wow.
And then she'll download that and share it to Instagram then. So
Wow.
I definitely hear what you're saying. That all feeds into how do you influence prospective buyers when you think about where they're at already, and then how do you kind of go connect with them? I mean, my biggest problem with the short videos is because the way the APIs are, like, and I think intentionally Instagram and TikTok, and then they're all making it kind of difficult for individuals to do this. I personally just don't want to take the time to do my recording and then go to 4 different places to upload it. So you tend to see people picking, I'm going to do TikTok, or I'm going to do Instagram, or sometimes Instagram can feed into Facebook very easily. But it's like you have to kind of pick, and it's like that's good and bad. But it's all still the same. It's short, authentic videos to meet people where they are. And like on TikTok, a lot of people, they think it's just people dancing to music because that's what it started as, is Musically. It's so much more than that now.
Yeah, I actually wrote down on a notepad, fun videos for biz, which is, I had kind of experimented with that for myself. Like I kind of took the Entrepreneur MBA podcast and I said, let me take this and make it into like 4 to 5 minute clips and lessons that I've learned over the years. And it was just a lot of work. It was a lot of work to kind of do it, to make it look good. I hired somebody to write a great intro, with a nice video intro, stuff like that, which was, it was really good. But just getting it done quickly and efficiently, I don't think it was really worth the bang for the buck. That's why I kind of stopped doing it.
Yeah, well, I think one of the guidances that I would give, and I can't speak to exactly that video because I didn't see it, but it's like I would encourage your listeners to not worry about overproducing things right now. Especially these more quick videos, and quick may mean even up to 90 seconds or so. They do not have to be polished. They just have to have content. I mean, in addition to this home inspector that I watch, 2 other people that pop up a lot in my reels that I interact with. One's kind of I wouldn't say a money expert, but maybe a little bit more how to save money. And then this other one is a woman who seems to be is a financial planner, and coaches people through that. Both of them do videos where it's them talking to them, but as if they're playing both characters. And so like she tends to put on glasses in one, and then will be on the right side of the screen when she's the person one side. And then she takes off the glasses and she's on the left side of the screen, the other. These people are both of them are probably scripting out a video in 4 to 5 minutes. They'll take out their phone. They'll just shoot one side of it in another couple of minutes. And then maybe they take 10 minutes to splice them together. They're getting tens of thousands of dollars of views. And because they're kind of doing it almost on a sketch comedy way, about just like, it doesn't have to be polished. Like she's walking through, like, should I pay off my student loans or not? And that's her talking to herself, but a different person walking through that in kind of a little bit of a fun way. And it's 60 seconds. It's highly shareable. It is not polished. It's very good information. And the shares on her videos are incredible. I mean, you could do that, insert any business, and you could offer something like that. I have a friend that's a general contractor. Man, I've given him some ideas. It's just he's in a good place to be. He's growing so fast. He doesn't necessarily need to focus on too much marketing. But I'm like, you could just script out some of these things and just do one a week, and it would probably 5x your business. And he's like, I can't hire project managers fast enough right now to do my current business. But anybody, any of your listeners could script out these little videos where it's somebody on their team or the business owner. Hey, what's a problem your prospective client has? Great. What's a quick little script if you could just talk to them about a subject and then film both sides of it and then give it to a VA on Upwork, and pay him $50 to splice it together and get your video back.
Yeah, and this is I actually do two podcasts. I do the Entrepreneur MBA podcast, and I do the Nonprofit MBA podcast because nonprofits are clients of ours as well. And I'm in my fourth year, so I've had 75 podcasts of each one. And I originally started it because I thought it would be fun. Okay. Right. Like I said, I love talking about business. And so that was one thing. The second thing, I thought, you know what? Let me just do it and I'll learn as I go along.
Right.
It's really, I'm shocked when I see the numbers now, like the thousands of listeners that are listening to the podcast. And I was showing it to my business partner the other day, and he's like, oh my God, he goes, those are real numbers.
Right.
And so, so my point of telling all our listeners that, and Kurt too, I know he'll agree, is that if you start it and say, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'll learn it as I go along. And the issue you have now, not the issue, the thing that's fantastic is that it's become so cheap to do them.
Right.
You can just learn as you go. It's cheap to do it. It's become easier. And there's also quite a number of companies internationally that can do it, like really kind of make it much simpler. Now, it can get a little bit more complicated when you really want it to be good.
Well, but as it starts to get to a place where, it's driving, tens and thousands and hundreds of thousands of viewers or listeners on things, well, then it's helping your business enough. You can afford to hand something off. I mean,
yes,
you mentioned, you're at 75, 76, podcast episodes, the numbers for people that start podcasts that never make it past 5.
Yep.
It's huge. That never make it past 10.
Only 3%.
Like 99.9%
yes.
of people that start one.
Yep.
And so just saying, hey, I'm going to do 25 episodes. That alone will change the business. Not I'm going to do 3, I'm going to do 25, and then and you put a time frame on there and just get them out there. It's the same thing with saying, hey, look, I mentioned this Texas home inspector. Hey, I don't know. I don't even know how often he does a reel. Okay. If you're the same business, just say, like, am I going to do 1 a day? God, I'd love to. But for a habit, I'm going to do 2 a month. And that's all I'm going to do to get started. And you establish the habit and you build it into, and then you say, I'm going to do 2 a month for the year. And then you can always increase it, but that's something that you can hit. And so when you start to add something in like that, well, you're already going to outpace anybody that's not in there for consistency. I mean, I'm successful partially just because I stay with things longer.
Yeah, I think the given is that you gotta, like, if you're gonna be the face of it, you gotta like what you're doing. If you're forcing yourself, if you're like, ugh, I don't really want to do it, then don't do it. Because like you said, the influence economy, people are gonna smell that in a second.
Right.
And you're not going to enjoy doing it.
Part of, building influence is knowing yourself. And some of that takes asking people around. It's like, some people are very, upfront and outgoing, and it's like, that's okay. Then let that be your personality when you put it on. Other people are very reserved. And so, like, hey, if you're the person who talks really smooth and kind of has that, radio DJ voice all the time, then that should be how you approach your topics and, and even frequency. As opposed to me, I barely had coffee today. Most people say I've had way too much coffee. I'm hyper energized. I don't sleep. And so it would be really weird for me to try to do something where I slowly talk through a topic and explain how to. That's just not me. And so I'm going to cater to that. And I always when I come in and I start to, coach businesses about, like, hey, what's not working when you're trying to step into this influence economy and change your marketing and put some personal brand behind it. Almost always the people that are having problems, it comes down to 2 issues. Either one, they have not built it into their work style, so, their habit, so that it's something they do consistently. And what's much more frequently, they're trying to be somebody that they're not. And that just does not work. That's often why family businesses don't work. You'll have like a jeweler that's really good at doing radio commercials and just that's what they want to do. And when they hand it off to a kid, it's just not their personality. And so they try being their dad or mom. And it's clear on every recording that that's just not the person. Like they're trying to be somebody they're not. But yet, if you walked in the store, you would love that. The woman that now owns her dad's previous jewelry company.
Yeah, so you and I have talked for the past 35 minutes and really just talked a lot about the industry in general. Let's bring it home right now and really give some some good advice that you think that's based on the topic of how small businesses can really make a big impact from a marketing standpoint. So what are some of your advice?
Well, my first thing is if they don't have a website, and so many small businesses don't, even those that are $10 million a year in sales, they're local businesses, they often don't. They should have, they need to have a website. And that's critical for me because, you may be really big on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram. And what happens when they change their algorithm? You need a hub online that you can send people back to, that you can kind of train customers and prospects about where they can go to, that then could branch off to other places if need be. So that's kind of the first thing. And if you can't build that yourself, if you don't have the budget to kind of go to a marketing agency, I guarantee one of your coworkers, one of your friends has a 14-year-old daughter that could build you just an incredible WordPress site for on the cheap and get it done in a couple of days to a month. Like figure it out. And the second thing is start with what you use already today. Yeah, you mentioned TikTok. It's huge right now. It has more viewers than YouTube, more traffic than Google, I think I heard. But if you're not on TikTok already, that's going to be a big change for you. Like my wife is on TikTok. I'm not. I log into Instagram and Facebook. And so it would actually I would have to change my daily interaction to pull up TikTok to go and do something. But yet I'm already in Instagram. So if I decided, hey, I'm going to do a short little leadership video, a couple times a week, I should do it in the network where I already am. I already have an audience and I'm already, used to bringing that up. So start with where you are.
Yeah. What else?
Don't chase the shiny new object. I mean, we kind of talked about it with the, stay with things consistently. Yeah, TikTok's really big, but if you had started building an audience, 2 years ago on Instagram and you have it going, do not go jump to something new just because it's being talked about and it's growing big. Like you can add it to what you're doing, but don't switch. There is a huge bit of these algorithms online, even Google ads, of momentum. How many people clicked on and did they transact with your Google ad last week or last month? Same thing with Facebook about whether or not it's going to show something. So don't just, consistency is the name of the game for all of these digital channels. And to some degree, even the same thing if you're in person. I mean, I'm part of a CEO netweaving group here in Atlanta. I had a baby come a little bit earlier at the end of last year, and we've had some family sickness and family death come up. So I haven't seen those people in 4 months. My relationships with those people and how we handled leads and helped each other is going to be very different now than it would have been where I saw those people twice a month for the previous year when I was actively going. Consistency is the name of the game for everything here.
Yeah, and I'll put my own spin on it as well. I mentioned to everybody that, I just started the podcast 4 years ago because I thought, it's something I wanted to do. I thought it would be fun. And I said, let me start it and go from there. Like, it's funny because you sit there and you're like, okay, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, it's like, I wrote down on, like I said, on my Post-it note here, fun videos for biz, right?
Right.
To do, right? It's like, you know what? My business right now is doing really, really well based on the existing marketing channel that I'm using. Like, do I really need to introduce all of these other things? Listen, I'm a $25 million company. I'm really happy being a $25 million company.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do I want to be a $30 million company, $40 million company? Yeah, but can I get there with my existing marketing channel? Yeah.
Well, and I would say maybe you do, maybe you don't. I mean, I'm really big on. I mean, at the company that you mentioned in my intro, that we I was part of the small team that was actually the team that took it public. I mean, we had thousands of employees, but we went from 85 million a year in revenue to 1.44 billion a year in revenue.
Wow.
Um, but I saw executives, and I led at that time where it was like the wake of devastation of families behind us and individuals was. I mean, I mean, it saddens me today if I really think about it too much. And I lead things very differently now. And much more recently, I've say an associate more than a close friend, but a woman who was running an 8-figure a year business. And she just dialed back her business. So now it's a closing out, kind of the books for this last year. So it's a high 7-figure business. She's earning more, she said now, after she intentionally said, wow, I've got a bunch of kids. I want to see them grow up. I feel like I pulled away. So she dialed back her business,
Yeah.
but yet her personal profit margin and the business profit margin went way up. She's like, this is incredible. Like anybody that would have told me that this was possible, I would have said no, because what I needed to do was go from 20 million to 25 to 50 million. She goes, what I needed to do was see what I didn't like doing and instead scale back my business. And so now she may continue growing the business, but it's a very different beast that she's growing right now and still making really good revenue.
Well, I'll leave you with one word that that I really, especially with recently, I've been doing so much of it. The one word is outsource.
Oh yeah.
Right. So if you're like, oh, I don't really want to do it. I don't want to do the learning curve. Outsource it. Go find a company that does social media really, really well, and
Yeah.
tell them what you're thinking, and start off small and just do it. Have them doing it, with your input, of course. And then you never know. Look at my podcast. 4 years later, it's been great. It's doing really well.
That's a great point. Every hire I've made for the last 10 years, I tell them that I need them to look out for two things. One, what is something that you see me doing that you could take off of my plate? And I need you to challenge me in a healthy way to let me try to give it to you. Like, not because you just want authority, but because you could help and you see that I could spend more time somewhere else. And if you can't do it, but you think I shouldn't be, I need you to tell me that I need to go find somebody, whether it's internal or external, to your point, and hand that off to. And I mean, seriously, by giving permission to people to do that, it is healthy conflict at time. People that work for you and work with you in your business will see things that are blind to you. You just need to give them permission, because so many people, they've been in toxic environments, they don't feel safe. And when you really challenge them, and I'll put it on people's calendar, I just grab 15 minutes with people that are 3 levels below me in an organization and go, what have you heard that I'm doing? Or what do you see that I'm doing that you don't think I should be? And you're open to that feedback. You don't push back on them. Your business and your life will change.
Yeah. Was there a second thing you said? Was that the first thing?
That's I say it's both. What can you take off my plate, and then if it's not something you can take off, but you think I should get off of my plate, what is that? Because that's very freeing as well from people.
Yeah, and the other thing I would just say to our listeners too, it's like, again, it's easy to get caught up in the shiny object, and the one thing I'm really like, just like you, Kurt, I'm a marketing guy, right? And the one thing that I really am driven by is measurements. And if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And with all these shiny objects out there, we're talking about YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and blah 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 blah. You got to be able to measure, and if you're not closing deals, after a period of time, then you could have the best TikTok channel in the world and you're wasting your time. Right. And so you got to be able to find how, where did we acquire clients from this? How much money we're making from them? What did it cost us to acquire? What's the long-term value of that client? Because it's great to do all this fun stuff, but if it doesn't turn into business for you, well, you know what? Then it wasn't worth it.
I completely agree. I would add to that, when you're getting started in something, you may need to keep a track on keep a dashboard going.
Yeah.
But the real thing you should be looking at when you're getting started with a new marketing channel or something is, You should have decided up front how long, if I'm going to start my podcast, if I'm going to start doing reels on YouTube, if I'm going to start doing email newsletters, how long am I going to do this before I need to look to see what the results are? I have a product team who was doing product office hours with customers. They just messaged me today that said, hey, we think we're going to stop doing product office hours. It doesn't seem to be working. Here's why. 6 months ago, I think it might have been 5, but they had decided we're going to start this. And we had a discussion that said, no matter whether people show up or not, like, how long are you committed to doing this to decide whether or not it's working? And so your podcast, you wouldn't be where you're at right now if you had really, locked down on the numbers in your first 5 episodes. But you decided, hey, I'm going to do this for a year. And now you're, and I'm sure you saw numbers there that you wouldn't, that are small compared to where you're at now.
Yeah.
But then you get to go back and look at it. So what you're tracking up front may be very different than when you look to decide, do I want to keep doing this?
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, and there's 2 things I would say is, I'm not giving advice in here. Number 1 is I really enjoy doing them, and number 2 is it's pretty inexpensive. So it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So
well, you mentioned kind of the shiny object as well. We both talked about it. For me, and I don't know if you're this way, but I have to have a repository, a trusted system to get things out of my head.
Yep.
Otherwise, they'll stay in my head.
Yep.
And so my wife and I, we kind of laugh, like my company's run on Trello. Some people use Asana or some other tool. My household runs on Trello, to the point that, like, if my wife and I are thinking about we want to do something, we add it to a Trello card. One of us will often, because it needs to come out of my head so that I can say, I'm going to come back and relook at this. And so my to-do list in Trello, whether it's for work, an individual, customer success or marketing or sales team, or my personal thing, they will never be empty. The point of the list is to get it out of my head. I trust the system that I will bring it up at certain times to prioritize, what do I want to do? What do I want to start doing? What do I want to stop? And without that system, especially for so many business owners, it is, hey, you heard TikTok's really big. Okay, is that the best use of your time? Maybe or maybe not. Put it in a system so that you'll come back and revisit it and prioritize it as you know it should be, with the wise decisions that you can make, rather than just jump into it.
Yep. Well, it's all good stuff. It's all the time we have today. It was a great discussion. I'd like to thank so very much Kurt Uhlir for coming on to today's podcast. If you like today's podcast, please feel free to share it with a friend. And also subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. And of course, if you're looking for a line of credit for your business, you can call us at 862-207-4118 or visit our website at fscreditline.com. Again, that's FS Financing Solutions Creditline.com. Kurt, if anyone gets in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
Visiting my website is going to be the best place. So Kurt, KURTUHLIR.com. And then that'll give you links to anything depending on what you're looking for. I have lots of leadership and business owner kind of content coming out, but some people just want to know, gosh, I want to see more of the personal side of what that looks like. Then it's going to drive you to Instagram, because you're going to get that. Very different than the content that would be in, say, LinkedIn.
All good stuff. Kurt, thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
And for all our listeners out there, the word of advice that I would give everybody based on today is, people really, really underestimate how important lead generation is to your company. I mean, we're talking a lot about today. There's no 2 buts. If you want to grow your company and you don't have a good lead generation channel and you haven't really figured that out, well, that's your number 1 problem. And if you're using these lead generation channels and they're not buying from you, well, I don't know if you have much of a business anymore. So you really got to get this marketing thing really down pat. Then comes the other side of it too. Is your product good? Is your service good? But today's good insight as to a variety of different channels that you could consider. Everybody have a great day. Summer's coming around the corner. It's going to be a lot better, I think, than it was the last 2 years, although I've said that before. But everybody really kind of get out there, try to get outside, take care of yourself, and hopefully today gave you some good ideas going forward.